Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg joining us now. The war is clearly widening. It's intensifying again. Do you have any idea how long this is going to go on for? Because time is becoming a real problem.
Hi, Stuart. Thanks for having me. Good to be with you this morning. Look, I don't think you can put a timetable on it. I don't think you should. You have to do it based on conditions on the battlefield. And I believe that's what the president's doing, rightfully so, with the Secretary of War and also Dan Kay, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. This expansion of activity by the Houthis into Mandeb Strait is causing us a problem. There's really, when you look at it, there's two major oil straits that are in control by the Iranians and the Houthis as well. One is the Mandeb Strait on the Red Sea, which is basically 20 miles wide, and the Strait of Hormuz. And the reason why the one on the Red Sea is important, because the Saudis try to offset sending stuff through the Strait of Hormuz by building a long-range pipeline to Yanbu, which is kind of in the middle of the Red Sea, and exporting it through the south. And they've done a good job at that. And then you've got the Houthis out there with their drones. I think they're just going to keep punching through it. We'll keep reacting to it. It clearly shows that they're a surrogate of the Iranians, and the president is right about what he's trying to do. But it's kind of interesting now. We've gone from enriched uranium to the economics of the world. We don't really need that oil, but the Chinese do. And we need to get the Chinese involved, because a majority of that oil that comes out through the Strait, out of Kharg Island, and out of the Strait of Mandeb, goes to China and goes to the Far East as well, not necessarily to us. So this is one when you look at the world and you say, you better come online with us and help us out on this one, because one, we don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, but two, they're starting to impede basically economics of the world. So it's kind of an interesting play right now, and I think the president's got it right, but don't put a timeline on it. That's what people are starting to press about. What is the timeline? Well, when you fight a war, you don't figure that. You just don't do it. It's not like a football game or a baseball game that goes for 9 innings or more. You just have to play it out.
I understand that, but the politics here, as long as those as long as the flow of oil is impeded, and it is, as long as it's impeded, the price of oil will stay at that high level, and gas prices in the United States will continue to go up, and interest rates will go up. Those are major negatives because of the time frame of this war. I know we're not supposed to put a time frame on it, but a lot of people are.
Well, sure they are, Stuart, because that's kind of normal when you get in the world of politics and you see what's happening here in Washington, D.C. But the fact is, when you fight a war, understand war and what it takes. And I think you're going to have to revise a little bit of your strategy to go forward. And I've been on air saying this is maybe where we need to go with a different type of strategy. It's sort of like a game plan in a football game. If the game plan isn't working, generally a good coach will change the game plan out. But what you don't want to do in a situation like this, and this is my fear, is we've all seen sports. Let's use football as an example. If you let a bad team hang around to the fourth quarter for some break in the game, they're going to do something and it can actually defeat you. I remember years ago with Appalachian State, Michigan. They went to Michigan and they won it on the last second field goal because the Wolverines let them hang around until the end of the game. The same thing happens in war. When you have a chance, finish them off early. And I think the president's on the way to finishing them off. He has to do it. And remember, the Houthis are a surrogate of the Iranians. We've said all along, one of the things you've got to knock off is supporting the Houthis as well. And I think the Iranians need to understand that.
One more, real fast. Trump's approved a nuclear deal with the Saudis. Are we encouraging the Saudis to get a nuclear weapon?
No, I don't think we are, Stuart. I really don't. I mean, look, number one, the president's been talking about nuclear energy since his first term, and this is a beneficial aid to Westinghouse Corporation that makes it. And the AP1000 nuclear reactor that they want to develop won't even come online until 2030. The other part is Congress will play a role on this, on whether this thing should go forward or not. But we're trying to expand it. And as long as we control the enrichment of uranium between 3 to 5%, we're okay. And I think we'll control that with the Saudis. There is always a concern. I mean, you touch the third rail in nuclears when you go developing basically a new reactor, and I think they just have to be concerned about it. I think we're going to be okay. I don't think we're going to go there.
I hope so. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, thanks for being with us this morning. Thank you, sir.